There is a particular kind of pressure that arrives late in the day. The room becomes quiet, the messages slow down, and somehow every unfinished thing becomes louder. A decision you have not made. A conversation you need to have. Work that did not get finished. Money questions. Plans that still feel uncertain. Small worries begin standing shoulder to shoulder until they look like one enormous problem. If that is where you're tonight, let this be a quieter place for a few minutes. You do not need to solve everything tonight. That is not the same as saying nothing matters. It is not giving up, avoiding your responsibilities, or pretending that difficult things will disappear. It is simply recognizing a truth that pressure likes to hide. Not every problem can be solved well at every hour. At night, tired thoughts can sound extremely convincing. They speak with urgency. They say that if you stop thinking, something important will be missed. They say that rest must be earned by reaching the end of a list that has no real ending. They say tomorrow will be easier only if you carry all of tomorrow tonight. But carrying a problem and solving a problem are not the same thing. Imagine a small harbour many years ago. At the edge of the water stood a watchkeeper in a stone tower. Each evening, as the last boats returned and the sky became dark, the watchkeeper lit a lamp. The lamp did not repair damaged boats. It did not decide where they should sail next. It did not calm the sea or rebuild the pier. Its purpose was smaller and more important. It kept one clear light visible through the night. One evening, after a difficult storm, the watchkeeper looked across the harbour and saw everything that needed attention. A section of the pier had broken. Ropes had come loose. Crates were scattered along the shore. Several boats would need careful repairs before they could leave again. The watchkeeper felt ashamed to stand in the tower doing only one thing. Surely a responsible person would climb down immediately and begin fixing the entire harbour. So the watchkeeper left the lamp and hurried into the dark. For hours, the watchkeeper pulled ropes, moved timber, and tried to repair what could barely be seen. Work had to be repeated. Tools were misplaced. Tired hands made poor knots. And while the watchkeeper rushed from task to task, the lamp in the tower slowly went out. Far beyond the harbour, one final boat was still returning through the darkness. What it needed was not a repaired pier before sunrise. It needed the light. The watchkeeper finally understood. Night had a job, and daylight had a different job. Keeping the lamp lit was not laziness. It was enough for that hour. Perhaps tonight is asking something similar from you. Maybe the whole harbour of your life feels untidy. There may be repair to make, decisions to face, and work that deserves your full attention. But your task in this particular hour may not be to rebuild everything. It may be to keep one small light visible until morning. That light could be a sentence written on a page. It could be choosing the first task you will begin tomorrow. It could be placing what you need beside the door. It could be admitting that a decision deserves a rested mind. It could be turning off the screen and allowing the day to be complete. Even though the work is not, there is a difference between completion and closure. Completion means every part is finished. Closure means you have decided where today ends. Most meaningful lives are rarely complete. There's always another message, another possibility, another improvement, another concern. If rest is only allowed after everything is complete, rest will remain permanently out of reach. Closure is how you draw a gentle line without pretending the story has ended. You can say, "This is where I stop for today. I know what remains. I will meet it again with more light." Notice how much of tonight's pressure comes from trying to answer questions that do not yet have enough information. You may be demanding certainty about a path you have only just begun. You may be trying to predict someone else's response before speaking to them. You may be judging tomorrow's ability using only today's tiredness. Uncertainty can feel like a task, but it is often simply a space. Thinking harder does not always fill it. Sometimes information must arrive. Sometimes another person must respond. Sometimes you must take one step before the next part of the path becomes visible. You are allowed to leave a question open when the honest answer is not available yet. This does not make you careless. It makes your attention more accurate. It lets you separate what can be done now from what can only be carried around now. That distinction matters, because carrying everything at once can make the smallest useful action feel impossible. So let us make the night smaller. You do not need a complete plan for the month. You only need to know the first useful thing you can do tomorrow. You do not need to settle every feeling. You only need to stop arguing with yourself for having them. You do not need to become a different person before morning. You only need to give the person you are a fair chance to begin again. Take a moment and imagine placing each unfinished concern on a table. Not throwing it away. Not denying it. Simply setting it down where you can find it again. Give each one a little distance from the others. A work task. A decision. A conversation. A worry. They may still matter, but they no longer need to form one shapeless weight. Now choose one of them. Ask a very modest question. What is the next visible action? Not the final result. Not the perfect plan. Just the next visible action. Perhaps it is opening a document. Sending one honest message. Checking one number. Making one appointment. Spending 10 minutes gathering information. The action should be small enough that tomorrow's version of you can recognize where to begin. Write it in one sentence. Tomorrow, I will begin by. Finish that sentence plainly. There's no need to make it impressive. This sentence is your lamp in the tower. It does not rebuild the harbour. It gives you a clear point to return to. Once it is written, allow the other questions to remain unanswered for tonight. There will be a time for effort. There will be mornings when you need to be brave, afternoons when you need to be patient, and moments when a difficult decision cannot be delayed. But wisdom is not only knowing when to continue. It is also knowing when continuing would add motion without adding progress. You have already lived this day. Whatever went well belongs to it. Whatever did not go well belongs to it too. You can learn from both without replaying every moment until it changes. The day does not need a perfect ending to be allowed to end. Let the unfinished things be unfinished. Let the unanswered things be unanswered. Let tomorrow contain some of tomorrow. For tonight, keep one light. One sentence. One next step. Then give the rest of the night back to quiet.